Hello everybody, I'm Cookie, a competitive Splatoon player from Australia. This is how to get good at Splatoon 3, where you'll learn the best practices to focus on if you want to get better. Improving in Splatoon is a constant uphill battle, with very unique mechanics and strategies and an insanely high skill ceiling, so jumping in with the right mindset and knowledge is crucial if you want to climb the ladder faster than everyone else. Stick around for 3 kinds of tips: growth, gameplay, and mindset, which will help kickstart your growth as a player. And if you find this video useful, please like and subscribe for more guides like this and to support the channel. First of all, I've identified 3 golden rules that you should always remember if you want to get better. I will explain how to actually put them into practice, but if you take nothing away from this video, please remember these principles. Number 1, stay alive. Dying is the single worst thing you can do for your team, other than deliberately throwing. You are removed from play entirely, leaving your mates at a disadvantage until you return. Simply being alive can be a threat to the enemy team, as having more active players than your opponents is always an advantage in engagements. If you want to get better, you want to be alive to do it, so you should prioritize your own safety whenever you can. Back up and reposition so you can continue to hold your ground, help your mates, and provide super jump points. And if you have to, just super jump out. It will save your special. A chain is as strong as the weakest link, so take note of what often kills you and make sure you're aware of it so you can continue to play your part. Of course, sometimes dying is unavoidable, especially if you're trying to squeeze a sneaky lead. And at higher levels of play, entire strategies for some weapons revolve around forcing risky 1v1s, even if dying is likely. But in general, you should always try to stay in the game. You should especially look out for if you're staggering, which means rushing in as soon as you respawn and dying because you're on your own. Wait for your teammates to come back and push together. And on that note, number 2, play as a team. Splatoon is a team game. It's almost impossible to get stuff done on your own, but most newbies forget that. Your next priority after staying alive is to help your team win the game. Simply sticking with a teammate and covering them lets you take space faster and win engagements easier. A common saying is that good players win 1v1s, but great players win 2v1s, so don't try to be a hero. Play around your mates and your victories will come naturally. Of course, coordination is way easier if you have voice chat with your friends, but even without comms, you should pay attention to what your teammates are doing so you can act accordingly. Some simple things you can integrate into your gameplay now include helping your teammates attack enemies from different angles to overwhelm them, painting your friends' feet to keep them mobile, using your specials at the same time to be more effective, and standing in different positions to broaden your team's area of control and to watch for enemy approaches. You should also learn when your teammates are in a position to help you, so you can make informed decisions about when to push. This comes with experience for sure, but it's something you should look out for from now on. And with that in mind, number 3, focus on positioning, which will help you help your team. Of all the skills you build in Splatoon, positioning is the most important to learn, and is arguably more impactful on your performance than your aim. Standing somewhere your weapon can be most effective while both staying alive and helping your team is the final piece of the puzzle. An example of good positioning is simply taking high ground, which gives you more vision and range while keeping you safe from enemy fire. Even if you and an enemy were pinpoint accurate, the one with the better position has a big advantage, especially if you have longer range. Cover is also extremely important, especially for frontliners, as it lets you get around without being instantly lasered as soon as you're seen. A lot of people disregard level terrain and rush out into the open, right where a charger or splatling have perfect sightlines. Again, it's all about staying alive while helping your team. Of course, in reality, it isn't that simple. Every weapon has more nuanced positioning tactics, especially for support weapons, sneaky playstyles, or weapons that excel at exploiting terrain. But in general, it's all about safety and effectiveness. So as you play your favorite weapons, pay attention to which positions work well and which don't, so you can be at your best at all times. Those are your 3 golden rules. Now, if you want to actually get better, let's take a look at how you can put them into practice with these growth tips. And if you found this video helpful so far, don't forget to like and subscribe for more like this in the future. First, let's get this one out of the way. Ask any player how to improve, and you'll get the same response every single time. Just practice. And it's true, the most important way to improve at any game is to simply practice consistently, get your ass kicked, and learn from your mistakes. There's no better way to improve than to expose yourself to as many different situations as possible and gradually learn how to counter them. And the only way to do that is to practice. So yes, if you really want to improve, make sure you practice. However, most players who say this just leave it at that. Just play a lot. But simply playing a lot won't help you improve. Some people have played for thousands of hours and barely rise above B rank. To get good, you must practice with the intent to get good, not just for fun. As a newcomer, you would have no idea what you're doing wrong or if you're forming the right habits, even if you play a lot. So playing without actually paying attention will get you nowhere. So, equipped with those 3 golden rules, it's important to learn how to analyze your gameplay. Being able to analyze and adjust your gameplay while you practice will make the biggest impact on your performance, no matter how much you play. So, let's look at an example. If you die in a match, ask yourself how you could have avoided that situation. For instance, you might notice that you died because you tried to push someone by yourself who had a better position. Take note of that mistake and deliberately keep it in mind next time. If you're in that situation again, you might wait for a more advantageous opening before attacking. Of course, this is easier said than done, but you can't get better if you don't know what you did wrong in the first place. And if this keeps happening again and again across multiple matches, then you've developed a bad habit, which you should put more focus on correcting. Splatoon is a very fast-paced game, and there are so many things that can go wrong at any moment. Perhaps you pushed up too far, or didn't see a flanker, or didn't have enough paint to escape an enemy, or stood out in the open in front of a charger, or didn't notice your teammate left your side. And this doesn't just go for deaths. Why did you lose the lead right at the end? What caused the enemy to breeze through your defenses? Did you waste your specials? If you actively look out for these shortcomings and keep them in mind next time, you'll improve very quickly. This applies to things you do well too. If you had a super quick knockout match, try to analyze why you were able to sweep them so easily. There's no point in practicing a lot if you don't learn from both the good and the bad. Additionally, it's important to watch past games with the same analytical mindset, as you're obviously not focusing on every single thing going on while you're playing. Rewatching games will often reveal mistakes you couldn't possibly have noticed in the moment. This is especially easy with Splatoon 3's replay system at the lobby terminal, where you can even watch from other players' perspectives. Observe how a teammate contributed to your success, or how an enemy outplayed your team, and watch out for it next time you end up in the same situation. Here's an example from one of my replays. In the heat of the moment, I thought I just got outskilled, but looking back, it's clear that I put myself into an unwinnable fight. Perhaps I should pay more attention to where my enemies are. And don't just stop at your gameplay. In addition to your replays, find other players' replay codes, or watch gameplay videos on YouTube or Twitch to see the strategies other players use. This is especially useful if they use the same weapon as you. Getting a healthy dose of how others play is important to broaden your perspective on the game, as you could pick up new techniques, positions, or strategies you never thought to use before. And finally, go get feedback from others. Upload and share your replays with others, privately or on social media, and ask for their feedback on how you play. Only analyzing gameplay by yourself is an easy trip into an echo chamber, where you can get stuck making the same mistakes over and over. If you can't figure out what's going wrong, pass your footage to someone else. They will definitely have insights that you could have missed. The community is super friendly and always willing to help you out. And hey, they might come to you for feedback too, which could give you more opportunities to learn. Alright, it's time for some gameplay tips. These should give you a better idea of what to look out for when analyzing, and why you might be falling short in-game. Always have a game plan, or at least try to adapt to any situation. I don't mean memorize a list of things you should do for every possible scenario, because that's kinda impractical. But if you end up not knowing what to do, try to come up with some kind of goal to follow through with. The last thing you want is to flail around aimlessly or rush in blindly and feed, which is not helpful to anyone. In this example, our team was completely locked out of mid, so my makeshift plan was to hold my position on the left side and charge my triple ink strike as fast as possible for a push. A shit plan is better than no plan, so try to come up with a way to help your situation if you get stuck. Choose your engagements carefully. You should not take every single fight if you want to be the most effective. you should always evaluate, even for a split second, if it's worth pushing someone with your current resources. Are they surrounded in their own ink? Do they have their specials ready? Who has the better position, or better range, or better killing potential? Do you have enough ink? Are your teammates alive and active near you? It's definitely a lot, but these are all considerations you will learn to make before engaging, because once you commit to a fight and reveal your location, it can be tough to escape. Sometimes the best plan is to find a better position, keep a bit of pressure on with paint or bombs, build your special, and wait for your team to arrive before attacking. And remember, good players win 1v1s, great players win 2v1s. Take advantageous fights over those with equal odds. And if an enemy does the same to you, there's no shame in running away until you have a better chance at winning. And on that note, use all the information the game gives you. In order to make these informed decisions, you need to consider all the information you have. The HUD at the top of the screen tells you who's alive and who has their specials. Use that info to decide if it's worth attempting a push. For example, if you spot a Tetradualies by themselves and they've got their special ready, it's probably best not to push them lest you get run over. Additionally, the map is basically free information that you can access at any time. It shows you exactly which turf is covered in real time, so you can see enemies moving through your turf that you couldn't see with just your eyes. You don't want to set yourself up to accidentally wander into a shucking roller, do you? It may be helpful to build a habit of opening and closing the map whenever you have a chance, just to keep you as informed as possible. If you ever have a second and don't know what to do, checking your HUD and your map can help you come up with a game plan, determine who has an advantage, and decide a course of action that will help you push forward. Pick a handful of weapons you like and stick to them. Many new players, especially competitive newbies, fall into a trap of flexing too hard, which means playing a wide variety of weapons without a defined playstyle. This makes it hard to improve consistently since you're jumping around all the time and not focusing your attention on improving one thing at a time. On the other hand, one-tricking a single weapon is an easy way to get tunnel-visioned into one style of play, making it difficult to learn and understand the greater scope of the game's strategy. My advice is to pick your favorite playstyle or weapons and start playing only a few weapons similar to them. That way, you can learn the ins and outs of a couple weapons at once while learning how to play that style most effectively. For example, if you really like Splattershot Pro, try branching out into Squeezer, Rapid Blaster, or Dually Squelchers for their similar range and playstyles. If you exclusively play Pro, it will be harder to broaden your horizons later. With that in mind, learn your weapon's strengths and weaknesses and exploit them. Every single weapon in this game has something they're good at and something they're bad at, no exceptions. You gotta learn to play to those strengths and mitigate those weaknesses if you want to be at your very best. Of course, every weapon has different strategies they use to achieve this balance. So here's an example. The Range Blaster has some very clear strengths and weaknesses that its users play around. It has very long range and high kill power and can even hit enemies with splash damage, but it's very slow and paints poorly, so it suffers in close quarters. Therefore, Range Blaster players learn to keep themselves at the optimal range to deal the most damage while leaving room to reposition if necessary. They always try to keep themselves out of close quarters combat, since that's a one-way ticket back to spawn. And since they paint poorly, they focus more on damage to have an impact on the game, leaving it up to their teammates to paint the ground around them and enable their aggressive behavior. Those are the kinds of things you should consider for your own weapon type. Every weapon handles this differently. Slosher kills slowly, but has long range and can hit people over walls, so Slosher players target enemies near ledges and terrain that gives them an advantage. Splattershot Jr. has high mobility and paint output, but weak range and killing potential, so junior players tend to play supportively by dumping paint near their teammates' feet and grinding specials for their aid. E-Leader has insane range and a one-shot kill, but takes 2 whole seconds to charge, so E-Leader players often throw the game. So E-Leader players often take to distant high grounds and snipe from as far away as possible. If you look out for these strengths and weaknesses in your analysis of your own or others' gameplay, you'll start to pick up on how to abuse the hell out of your weapon's best qualities and actively trivialize its weaknesses. Also, learn the qualities of other weapons and exploit them. Learning how your weapon works is great, but learning how others work lets you approach them with a much higher chance of success. Remember how Range Blaster players have trouble fighting at close range? Deal with them by slipping past their effective range and taking them out while they're between shots. Avoid approaching slosher players from ledges and instead flank them so they can't abuse the terrain. Cut off junior players from the rest of their team and keep them dead so they can't supply specials. Stay behind cover when an E-leader covers an area and force them out of position with bombs or specials. Since every weapon has a weakness, every weapon has a way they can be dealt with. Competitive Splatoon is an intricate dance where every player attempts to cover the very same weaknesses that their enemies attempt to exploit. Learning the qualities of weapons you have trouble with will help you improve drastically in engagements against them. And finally, use everything at your disposal. It may seem obvious, but you do have a sub and special weapon. Many new players forget this and don't use them at all. Your weapon kit is, for the most part, designed to synergize well with your main weapon and can help your team reach goals you wouldn't be able to achieve with just the ZR button. Can you use bombs to apply pressure from outside your regular range? Can they make it easier to take someone out? Or can they force them out of a good position? How about your special weapon? Does it let you do things that you otherwise couldn't, like take out faraway opponents? Can it amplify things you already do well, like defending a point? Or is it a counter to other special weapons? Learn how to implement your sub and special weapons into your gameplay, and your options will dramatically broaden. Finally, let's take a look at some important mindset practices. None of these improvement strategies are worth it if you aren't in the headspace to improve. Try not to autopilot. It's easy to slip into a sort of autopilot state, where you're not 100% paying attention to the game and are just passively playing it. This happens a lot if you're chatting with your mates or winding down with some splatty after a long day. And it's completely fine to play that way. In fact, a lot of players play extremely well on autopilot, but that's because they practice hard to get to that point. When you're practicing to improve, and not just for fun, try to catch yourself if you're on autopilot and start paying attention to everything going on to make proper decisions. Over time, it will become second nature, and you can start focusing on other areas to improve. And on that note, don't tunnel vision. Tunnel visioning is where you ignore everything going on in the game and start repeatedly making the same irrational decisions, such as feeding too hard and getting yourself killed. Everyone is guilty of tunnel visioning at some point, but improvement won't happen if you aren't focused. So if you find yourself continuously throwing yourself into death with no regards for the state of the game, stop for a moment, evaluate the match, and decide what you should do next. Don't get tilted. Solo queue sucks. You are bound to get angry at some point, but getting salty at your teammates, enemies, or the game itself is a one-way ticket to tunnel vision. Getting mad at the game will put you in no condition to analyze and improve your mistakes. It's okay to get angry at things out of your control, such as a teammate running the Rainmaker past the checkpoint. But if you start to get tilted while practicing, especially at things you could have prevented, take a breath, shake it off, and continue forward. You can't change mistakes in the past, but you most certainly can stop yourself from making them in the future, as long as you're calm and focused. And if the salt piles on too thick, it's very important to take breaks. Put the game down for a day or two, and pick it back up when you feel ready to practice again. I usually stop playing after losing 3 matches in a row, and just come back later. But it's not just salt that gets to people. Burnout is a very real risk that has happened to so many competitive players because they constantly grind the game without any breaks. If you play endlessly, the game can start to feel stale and exhausting to play when you once found it fun, and you could end up dropping it forever. And there's no point in playing if you're not having fun. If you start feeling this way, there's no shame in taking a break for a couple weeks, or even months. I personally took 6 months off the game after playing in several major tournaments in a row, and I'm very glad I did because I'm improving way faster now than when I was burnt out. And finally, and most importantly, never give up. No matter what happens, you will never get good at Splatoon if you stop playing forever. Be persistent and you will succeed, even if it takes time. Even if you keep making the same mistakes, even if it feels like you'll never get better, even if you find it hard to break out of your rank, don't give up. You will make it if you keep practicing and work to get better. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you learned a lot about getting good at this awesome game, and I wish you the best of luck. Please like and subscribe for more Splatoon content. Making videos takes a while since I'm studying full time, but I plan to make even more guides in the future, so leave your suggestions in the comments. It also boosts the video in the algorithm, which helps a lot. This was your local Aussie high-level player. See you later.